London, 1845. The empire is at its peak. Parliament gleams. Churches overflow with sermons about Christian charity. And yet, behind iron gates, in buildings that looked like prisons, thousands of men, women, and children were being slowly broken. Not by criminals, by the government itself. This is the workhouse, and what they fed the poor inside it was designed not to nourish, but to punish. To enter a Victorian workhouse, you surrendered everything. Your name, your family, your clothes. Husbands were separated from wives, mothers from children. You were given a gray uniform, a number, and a bowl. The Poor Law of 1834 was built on one idea, that poverty was a moral failure, and the workhouse was the cure. Make life inside so miserable that no one would choose to stay. They called it the principle of less eligibility. In plain English, the workhouse must be worse than the worst job outside. Now let's talk about what they actually ate, because this is where the Victorian mask truly falls. Breakfast, thin gruel. A watery mix of oatmeal and water. No milk, no salt, no sugar. 1 pint. That's it. Dinner. Sometimes a small piece of boiled meat, 3 ounces. Potatoes occasionally. And bread, dark, stale, sometimes green with mold. Supper. Gruel again. Or bread and cheese if they were fortunate. Portions were calculated not for nutrition, but for the minimum a body needed to keep working. And sometimes, even that was stolen. At the Andover Workhouse in 1845, inmates were assigned to crush animal bones into fertilizer. Inspectors arrived to find the starving men fighting over rotten scraps of marrow. Gnawing on bones meant for grinding. They were that hungry. This wasn't a malfunction of the system. This was the system. Food was used as discipline. Speak out of turn. Your ration was cut. Refuse to work. You went without dinner. Cry for your children. You earned extra labor. The workday began at 5 a.m. and ended at dark. Men broke stones. Women picked oakum, unraveling old rope until their fingers bled. Children were set to work as soon as they could walk steadily. Silence was enforced at mealtimes. No conversation, no comfort. Hundreds of human beings eating in total silence, staring at their gruel. One inmate described it as eating inside a church where God had forgotten to come. Inspectors who visited painted rosy pictures for Parliament, but the truth leaked out in letters smuggled out by inmates, in the confessions of workhouse masters on their deathbeds, in the testimonies of children who survived. The Andover scandal of 1845 finally broke the silence. When Parliament heard that starving men were eating rotting bones, the public was horrified. The Poor Law Board was dissolved. Reforms began, slowly, reluctantly. But for hundreds of thousands who passed through these gates, the damage was already done. Children grew up stunted. Mothers died separated from their families. Old men were buried in unmarked graves in workhouse yards. Victorian England built an empire on the labor of the world, but it could not feed its own poor with dignity. Behind every stained glass window in every church, behind every portrait of a charitable Victorian lady, was this: iron gates, gray walls, an empty bowl, and silence. This was not charity. This was control.